Okay, what's going on? What's going on? Make sure that the sound should be pretty good on here. Today is Saturday the 26th of July, 2025, and what we're going to be going over here is going to be the weekly review for the futures market. We'll talk a little bit about the dollar index, and we will talk a little bit about ICP, a little bit about crypto just at the end. One of my main focuses is to kind of show you guys how we utilize the weekly DRC document, right? So just the weekly, okay. So I have that weekly one here, so you guys can kind of see like, I fill mine out. uh, right? This isn't like, right? I fill mine out. All right, so that's this document here, which you can get in the Telegram, right? Or if you're inside of the Trade House Discord, you will have access to that where you can follow along. Okay. And so I'm going to pull up that document here first, here really quick. And where we're going to work at today is going to be here. So I'm going to do this. Okay. So we're going to work here on this window. The document that I want to bring up here really quickly. Let me see here. I had already pulled it up. Oh, let me unshare this actual side. Sorry. So what we'll do here, I already have the document pulled up. I'm gonna put it over here. Okay. Okay, cool. So we're gonna work, like I said here. This is the document that we want to focus on. I do want to see how you guys can actually see this document really quickly. So give me 1 second.
Recording in progress.
Okay, cool. Let me see how you can see this here really quick. Okay, cool. So you guys should be able to see this document. So if you want to just take a screenshot or just pause it, you can kind of understand what we're going to go through so you can stay on point with what we're doing here. So first, we're going to start off with what goals did I set this week? Just some simple goals of, for me, when it comes to funded and Top Step, I was looking to this last week just have 3 days of $200 or more on all those accounts. Did you meet those goals or not? Why or why not? I'll kind of go over some of my notes. How did my trading align with my intentions, right? So, with what you were intending to do, how did you actually trade this week? And, what are some things you can maybe do better? What was your net P&L? Now, this is all stuff you can keep personal and private if you like, um, in this section here, but it just depends on like, with our personal like Wolfpack group, we share it with each other. So net P&L, your win percentage of the week, average risk reward of the week. What I'll focus on going over is the best trade of the week that I took and the worst trade of the week that I took and why. What did I learn or what did I do well this week, right? So on a good week, that's usually obviously going to be a lot of stuff, right? And on a week where, let me see here. Okay, cool. Yeah, so my bad. On a week where you're having a winning week, it's obviously going to be the better ones. And then, when you have a losing week, right, there's going to be a lot less here in this section. So you're going to have to still muster up something, right? There's got to be something that you did. There's something you identified. There's something that you did well this week that you can build upon for that next week. And then number four, what did I learn this week? What are some things that you maybe want to take in over to next week? Number five is going to go, if you guys are following the DRC template, then when you're looking at the DRC at this point, usually this would be where you're making changes from that day. So all you're doing is going back over your DRCs and looking at that section of the changes you need to make from that day to the next and see, in step five here at the end of the week, what were some mistakes that you made maybe over more than once and that you really definitely need to correct. And then the missed opportunities because of maybe hesitation or you're not letting the setup come to you the way that you want. So then you're actually out of position and not what we call in the pocket and ready to take the opportunity that you know is an easier one. And then number six is going to be, what kind of market environment do we have? We'll take a look at that from a higher time frame perspective. H4, H1, daily, monthly, like where we're kind of at for the time of the month. And then what setups perform the best for me, which I can already tell you guys, it's usually about the same setup for me when it comes to NQ and indices, futures, right? It's usually going to be about the same. Give yourself a grade on the week, A, B, C, D, or F, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about some things we want to focus on into the next trading week, trading objectives. Now, these will change and be different for different individuals. And then the mental edge to reinforce, right? And that's going to be, for me, more on the lines of, just basically staying goal oriented and staying just focused on my goals and what I need to get done to get to the bigger goal. And then setups to lean into, again, will be very similar to the ones that we always look at, which are capitulation bounce plays. Those are my favorite setups to find and to play, especially in these markets. So. Like I said, guys, make sure you get this document. If you haven't already, it's in my Telegram where you can just go click it and then you can go and do your own little, updates to it and whatnot. So, okay. So what we're going to do is so now let's see here. Just want to make sure you guys can see this stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus in on the 1 hour and the 15 of NQ for the week. Okay. So 1 hour and 15. Now, for my personal goals this week, like I said, I did not actually meet all my goals this week just because I had a couple days where I was kind of fighting the markets, and I'm going to explain those two areas here to start off the week, right? So Monday, as you guys can kind of see here, we had a massive push up during New York, so that huge push up right there was during the New York session, right? So that was a massive push up. And then if you flip this, right, and you go look at Tuesday, and we'll break it down, right? Then you had Tuesday was a massive bear day. So what are some of the things that I could work on that are going to next week for sure? Well, on this day, because I had missed the New York buy and just wanting to see that position rally up and go take highs, I was waiting for, people to take profit on these buys and looking for that sell to happen and just kept trying. I tried two or three times before I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to find this today, and then we were done. Same thing situation here, and I'll break down Monday and Tuesday, but same thing with Tuesday, right? Tuesday just completely sold off, seen it take liquidity here, seen it take the liquidity here, and had already played twice, and was still able to play my final shot to kind of go back up into the end of the day, but it's just not really what I wanted to do. Okay, so um that would be kind of why I didn't meet the goals, just because I expended a little bit of ammo on Monday and Tuesday, in areas that, I could have been more patient for what I was waiting for, especially on Tuesday. Okay, so let's see here. How did my trading align with my intentions? Give me 1 second. Okay, so how did my trading align with my intentions? I would say beginning of the week, not as good as the intentions that I had, just because I was just being, um, just trying to make something happen. Then as we went on through the week, it got better. Um, let's focus on now the next part, which would be, we'll go to best trade of the week and worst trade of the week. Okay, so. let's start with the worst trade of the week, right? Worst trade of the week um was probably, let's see here, 721. Worst trade of the week for me was on 721. So on Monday, right? Price came all the way up in here 9:15 a.m. As you guys can see right here. All right, price was rallying up 9:15. So we come up in here 9:15, 9:30, make that high, start showing signs of weakness 9:30 to 9:45. Another sign of weakness, crown forming at 23,400. And I started to attack this area here, which honestly wasn't really a bad area, but the thing was this was my third attempt. I had already tried twice over here. So that was like my worst trades of the week. I'd say my best trade of the week happened to come from on Wednesday, right? Which like I said, we'll break down, but ended up getting the buy position, was able to take out overnight liquidity and hit a target, right? So I went from under the range, right? Under those overnight lows to up out of the range, taking the London highs, which was a nice setup, and then price continued to rally to our target on Wednesday, which is our best day, right? That we liked to the M pattern target. All right, so we had an M pattern that had formed right here. And when price capitulated the day before on Tuesday, right, price fell down super fast. I kind of wanted that same move that happened on Wednesday to happen here and get back up to previous support and was able to, like play that out. I ended up still doing that, but this is the same situation. Like I said, once we took this low here on that Tuesday, I ended up taking buys a little too early in the position, right? After we had taken these lows, like right here on the higher time frame. I started trying to take buys a little bit too early. So I took one, two, and then I took the third one, and it was enough to take us back to market open and to secure a smaller win on that day. But it was still not a good day trading because of the not being on the right side of the V. Okay. And so to get the same move, why this was the best trade of the week, to get the same move that I wanted from Tuesday, right? Just a whole nother day later, and then to one be able to for sure secure a profit here, and then to see them continue up to take out because they're looking left as well the previous day, which was Tuesday's New York session, right? Shorts, and then the high, right, that I thought was kind of crazy from the overnight from Tuesday, they ended up coming for that as well, right, to close the day on Wednesday. So Tuesday or Wednesday being the best trade, and then the worst trade day, right? If you're going back and looking at it for me, was Monday, and that's because I took two shorts before I found the actual short. Just like on Tuesday, I took two buys before I found the actual buy, which was just mistakes, right? Just it happens. Okay, so we went through. I'm trying to see. Okay, so we went through the best trades of the week, worst trade of the week, and then what I did well this week. Okay. So what I did well this week, I would say the best thing I did this week was just the behind the scenes work. I wasn't dropping DRC videos each day, but I was definitely doing my DRC every day, and just going through all the back end work and really studying price. Right. So like that was one of the biggest things I would say. And just being relentless when things aren't going your way. Right. Like one of the biggest things I've learned is that if you're gonna be doing this and you want to do this as a profession, no one's gonna feel sorry for you. Right. You're playing a game. One of the when you look at it as a game, right? Like this game is played by some of the best, minds in the world, right? So you really don't have the opportunity to feel sorry for yourself. You just have to focus on getting better and, being able to, something I've been really sticking with is a really good mantra is I'm glad to be here. Just being grateful for, what it is that we have. Okay. And so that that's kind of shapes up part three. And then what I learned this week, right? The main things I learned from my perspective was just trusting my 15 and 5 minute setups, right? Trusting supply demand, trusting the edge, right? Trusting the probabilities of those setups at the right time. You cannot hesitate framing up 15 5 minute setups. So once you see your edge, like my name's Rick, right? But when I see that edge, I have to turn into what I call Maverick, right? Kind of like Top Gun. I have to turn into Top Gun mode because that's you have to switch your mindset. It's kind of like I said, like when Top Gun, right when he's about to, shoot someone with the plane, he flips the switch up on the trigger and you hear that certain sound. It's almost like that, right? When you see your signal and you don't want to act with any reservation or hesitation, or you're going to probably end up missing the risk placement, right? Because a lot of people think we're playing a game of profits, but we're essentially playing a game of risk, right? So that was pretty much that. And then we'll move to step five. Step five was mistakes and missed opportunities. Okay, missed mistakes was just being impulsive and not letting it develop. So like on Monday, like I was kind of explaining here, right? Coming into this price was running up so fast at the open, right? That I was basically being impatient. So let me kind of explain why this happens and why we become impatient in these setups, okay? So let's go to 15 and 5 on this. And then we're gonna go to Monday at 8:30. Okay. Okay. Oops. Okay. Monday at 8:30. Okay. So I just want to show this here really quick. Okay. Let's see what all y'all can see. Okay, cool. Okay, so Monday at 8:30. So one thing you guys know we focus on is going to be New York Opens, right? So for me, what I like to see is a 15 and 5 minute demand and like a 1 minute play a certain way. So when I go back and I mark New York Open here, what you're going to notice is the New York Open is right here, right? Now, what happens is I like to watch that first 15, or excuse me, first 5 minute uh candle and that first 1 minute candle. Now, if you go in and you study, right, this first 5 minute candle, what did you get, right? Let's go to replay mode here really quick, right? In the very first 5 minutes of New York, right, you got a massive candle, 23,256 up to 23,300. That's a little less than what? Almost, it's close to like almost 50. Let's just say round up 50 points, right? 50 handles to the upside. Now you didn't get the objective break, as you can see right here, like we're actually right here. You didn't get the break higher than the day yet, but you were getting pretty much in there, right? Now, one thing I put you want to focus on is location. Like something big for me this week is the location of the New York Open and how forceful is it, right? So what I mean by that is like, are they letting individuals in on the 1 minute, right? So like when you see a trade like that, look at the first minute, right? If you're just like I like to watch the first minute, I don't play it, right? Unless there's just, I mean, it has to be the best 15-5 edge I've ever seen, okay? But in that first minute, you got to think about how impatient people would have been. 23,256, bam, candle closes. 1 minute later, 23,280. So let's just say 250 to 280 is a 30 handle move in the first minute. Guys, you understand what people are doing in this situation? What they're doing is they're starting to buy, right? So I'm going to show you guys. Now look left a lot of the times when I'm showing you guys this on small time frames so you can get an idea of what it actually looks like for the individual, like on a 5 minute, okay? So okay, so now imagine if you've seen this and you're watching New York Open and you're like, oh, I want to buy this. They want you to play into this. They want you to buy into a move like this, right? So let's just say in the first 30 seconds, you started to buy inside the 270s, okay? Bam, your position would look like that on a 5 minute. It would look like this on a 15, and it would look like this, right? On the 1 hour, which to me, I actually thought, right, on a 1 hour, if you were getting in on a position like this and you were trying to take out that previous day high from Friday, the previous week, that's actually not a bad setup. But here's the thing, I don't personally want to buy a position that I have to force my way into. Does that make sense? So if I've got to force, let me go Alt G here. So if I've got to force my way into it, I would rather, right, let the price rally, right, and let these buyers eventually show me a sign that the same sign I look for on the capitulation bounce on the sell, like when it sells down to buy up, I'm looking for that same sign of those buyers taking profit in a situation like this. So what happened to me on that day? I'm just kind of breaking down to you guys on Monday what happened, okay? What happened? Let's go to 5 minute here, 5 and 15 again. What happened was what I ended up doing was I missed. I didn't want to take a buy on that, right? So I waited. Price came up. What was this? 835, 840, 840, 845. So the first 15-minute candle, as you guys can see here, was a bullish candle. I also write that down as well. So we were super strong. So in the first 15 minutes closed, we were super strong like that, and we broke a new high, and we had blasted through the previous day high, right, which was of that previous Friday. I was anticipating at some point maybe we get a pullback or people are going to take profit, right? Like as soon as we made this high here, and we closed, I was anticipating that we would possibly pull back into this area where the late players would have probably bought 23,300, right? Taking their liquidity like this, filling the imbalance, doing something like that, and then going and being able to find another position second half of the day. Obviously, we didn't get that. We only got one sign of weakness, 850 to 855. Then you had 855 to 9. So in that candle, if you guys can notice, they were already making new highs on the market right there going into 9. And then you have the open of 9, 9 to 905, 5 minute body candle closure higher, sign of strength to me. I'm not going to sell a market like that, right? And so where I ended up seeing is like they were showing it short here again, and I waited, right? I had got the 15-minute fast up candle, 9:15, 9:30, then 9:30 to 9:45. Price started to show weakness here, and I attempted shorts in this area and price came back down. So like when I attempted my shorts, it was around 935, 940, then there was 940, 945. I attempted a short right here and had put my risk here. Now I didn't like those highs, right? But all I wanted to really see was the previous scoop from here to where we are at now and see price break back down to the 50% of the range of the day and clean up some of these individuals who probably bought late, right? But like I said, on that position, um, was had already lost, like I said, a short from when I took one here. I just never covered the position, right? So I did. I went here, put my risk here, and then price started moving in my favor, right? When price moved in my favor and broke lower, like around here, it's like around 11 a.m. Like price was looking like this, right? Starting to break lower. We were starting to attack this area. I started to move price in my favor, right? But like I said, when this situation had already happened, I had attempted at least one short after we closed up in here, right? Pretty aggressively. So had one loss somewhere in this area here and then attempted here and just started getting sketchy about the risk and they ended up coming back up around 12, right? So I had this one here, moved the risk down, price moved in my favor, and then I thought I was going to continue to fall once we closed lower than here. It didn't fall, and then it came back and it got us for our trailing risk. Then we attempted to short again somewhere in here, thinking that it wasn't going to go for those highs, and they came up and it started making me nervous throughout the day, so I just closed it out on futures, right? And so that was Monday, and I was kind of like, honestly, the whole day was to me was shafted because I was like I wanted to have a buy position that was pretty nice, but they knew what they were doing. Okay, and so that was kind of what happened on Monday. So now we'll move into the same situation that happened on Tuesday. Now remember, like I said, remember where these New Yorks are opening and understand what's going on in those areas. Okay. So now we'll move on to Tuesday. As you guys can see, I like to do my sessions like this so I can see the days. And so now what we're going to do is go here and go to Tuesday. Okay, so now New York Open. Let's mark that really quickly here and mark my time here. Okay, so New York Open was here, right? So that's what New York Open looked like on the 15 and the 5. Now I want you guys to focus on the first 5 minute close and the first 1 minute. Same thing happened here, like we talked about the day before, right? Same thing happened here, right? This is Tuesday, July the 22nd, okay? They had overnight liquidity, so they had the Asian high here. They had buyers that were sitting here, right? The first minute, what did you get? Right? The first minute candle, it was unfair, right? Look at your 5 minute here on the left at the same time. All right. First candle, right? And I'm gonna show you guys how most people played this, okay? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna show you guys how most people play this. When they seen the first minute, most people they play what they see, so they get stuck. Oh, okay, it fell, and they just start selling at that break, right? Now, me personally, I like to align my 5 minute supply, right, and have edge based on a specific high. So when I seen that first break, let me show you guys what I was anticipating here. When I seen the first break just like this, all I was anticipating was a pull back up into the 23,000s, 334s, 37s, potentially 42s, right? To be able to then put my risk at the top and then sell down to where? These buyers from, 5 a.m., 4 a.m., right? And so they did it again, right? They did it a forceful New York Open, right? Boom, pushes down. Now, where does most players play this, right? Because they're watching the 1 minute and they have no idea what they're really looking at on a higher time frame, okay? And so most players, what I know from just watching 5 minutes is when that price, and we're talking technicals, closes right here, lower low, right? So that's all you're getting, and you're just getting that lower low technical like that. When that price closes here, that's when that 1 minute player starts looking for inversions, right? I would have personally, this is where another spot where I made a mistake, right? Because I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna wait for capitulation bounce and then to buy up. But it actually presented a 15 5 minute setup for me to destroy individuals that were going to play that same area, right? Because we had this was the issue though, right? Is that you have the breakdown, you have the new low, and then most individuals, like I said, are going to get in and put their risk right here. Now, what was the significance of this day? Okay. I'm going to show you guys why this matters really quick. Right? Because this is why you want to mark up your points of interest, right? And have an understanding of what's going on. Okay. So the daily open for Tuesday was here, right? Daily open Tuesday, 1700 hours Central Time Zone, right? Boom. For Tuesday, correct? Correct. Okay. Now that was a daily open. Now the other important area that we like to watch is what? London Open, right? And so the London Open was where? Right here. This was really important on Tuesday, okay? Because this could have been a really, really great sell side position. London Open. Now, what I want to show you guys, right, on the 5 minute, when those individuals miss that 1 minute because of how forceful it was and it breaks the structure here, and they start to sell this down, what they're gonna do is they're gonna frame it up like I would have framed it up like this, but they're just not seeing it the same way we're seeing it, okay? 5 minute candle as it was pushing down, I would have maybe framed up something like this, put my stop at the high, right? 25-point risk. Then I can look left to target that previous low, right? Good 1 to 2, 1 to 3. If you're going for those previous lows, you're definitely in that 1 to 3 range, right? So that'd be good. Not a bad trade right here, right? But what you got to understand is as soon as that London liquidity was set and those sellers came in after that 5 minute break, when you look left later on, why do you think we come right back to that level and draw on that liquidity the next day such a certain way, right? Because that's New York shorts liquidity, right? That's where they put their stop losses in alignment with that London Open and that structural 5 minute high before the fall. Now, why were we anticipating capitulation bounce for Tuesday? Because of how this opened, guys. So what they ended up making me do though was right, and why the same thing on that day before was I played a position early. I played one here, somewhere in here without my signal, right? So that was like right under. If you guys are looking left at the same time when I'm doing this. But 23,223s, right? When it came under this low, I was looking for price to come back up. Why was I looking so violently though? Because this is a massive M pattern, guys. Like this is exactly what we're looking for is money, right? Double tops. And so they push sometimes guys, it's not that those are targets, but sometimes they're gonna push away from those areas very violently. Okay. And so that's what we've seen on Tuesday, right? We've seen that push away. And that's why I was saying we were anticipating that whenever this fall happened, right? Eventually these shorts from New York, right? They got that liquidity grab of the overnight. They had gotten previous day. and they had gotten, I mean, all the way down to, let's see here, they had gotten all the way down to that the last week's or the week the yeah the previous week's not low but like inside that previous week's low, right? So it was just like, okay, cool, we've capitulated, we fell almost 300 points in one candle. We will most likely see it bounce up, and I believe, like I said, I played that first area, I played this area once before the turn, and then I found the right turn, and then price started to go in our favor for the end of that day, which ended up being okay on the day, but it just wasn't what we were wanting, right? So it's like, imagine you had, you watch the sales come down, you've seen 855 into 9, you've seen a sign of strength. They ran 1 minute players right here. That was really key. I don't want to go too crazy into that. But if you're playing in 1 minute, they ran those individuals and then they pulled the move, right? So when I seen that, I'll kind of show that actually here really quick. When I seen that 1 minute drag, right? So they have people here. It's how the 5 minute looked as well. So when they had that first sign of strength right here, so this would have been 855 in the 9, people started like, okay, I think I'm gonna buy this here, and then they dragged them, right? So they ended up going and taking lows one more time. When I seen that low take, I was watching a 5 minute, and then I seen them take the low right here, 905, and then I started seeing price closing back up into the area, and I seen a shift in price delivery and an engulfing candle right before 905. So that was the area where I personally started to attack 23,141s, and then I was wanting to give that back above here, 23,280 algo level, or preferably anywhere I could that was going to attack those New York shorts. Price ended up going into, as you guys can see here at the bottom, 145 and at like 2 p.m. It failed to ever go back to equilibrium and go higher and close above market open, and just kind of stalled out. So that was the day, but we wanted to see that capitulation bounce back up. Okay. And so now we're going to move into Wednesday here really quick. And we'll go 5 minute here, 15. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we're on to Wednesday, right? And just kind of looking back at what price we had the day before. We had the sell side on Tuesday that took out all the traders here, right? And fell down tremendously. We tried to play capitulation, bounce back up in that second part of like nine, like after like 9:15. Price carried along until 145 2 before it just couldn't get back above equilibrium. Cool. Now let's go here. All right, we're going into Wednesday. So I'm going to move that daily open from Tuesday. Let's go ahead and just move that down to Wednesday so you can kind of travel with us, okay? So 1700 hours, you want to make sure on bear candles you're doing the top, right? And on bull candles the bottom, right? So if this was a bull candle, use the bottom. On a bear candle, obviously use the top. Okay, so remember this concept as well. Trading is buy low, sell high. So, you want to be really understanding where that daily opening price is. So going into New York on Wednesday, we had previous price. We also had a beautiful target, which I believe was, too clear to see, which was the M pattern, right? And then taking back shorts from above New York Open yesterday, the day before. And so what did we get, right? What did we get at New York? Our favorite setup, okay? Favorite setup. Let's mark New York Open. Let's bring that over now. So from there, all New York, think about this, guys, price and time. From there to here, this is all that's happening. Now this is the next day, New York, okay? What did they do? You guys tell me, is this a sell or a buy, okay? Did they sell New York or did they buy New York? They sold New York. So what do we want to think when we see it just a capitulation short immediately from the open? We want to think short covering capitulation bounce. Okay. And so where did those sells from New York sell down to? They sold down to the low of day, right? That was the current low of the day, right? We had that arrow marked because it was a double bottom. We understand that noobs buy tops and sell bottoms. So if price was to capitulate down to this area, most people at this point, rich retail, they start to sell and try to break out to this area and they get clapped. Okay. So we've seen as soon as these cells basically seen this area below daily open, we wanted to see if we were going to see our signal, right? And if you guys notice, they sold. This is the beautiful day. This is the best day, right? They sold down right into the area. What'd you get here, right? You got exactly what you want to see. You got the 5 minute push up, right? So this is something that we like to identify. And a lot of people get caught in this area, right? In that 5 minute run up, they're buying like this, right? They're buying it in here, right? Not having understanding with risk placement, and then it stops them out and then goes the way that they want. That's mitigation, okay? And so you got to identify that first push up and understand what you're getting, and then be able to make sure you're framing up the move. So first push up, I love to see that back above daily price printing and giving you signs of willingness higher. And then as price came down, right? 9:35 to 9:40, 9:45 to 9:40, or 9:40 to 9:45, right? First 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour, below daily open, right? Attacking shorts. That's obviously price isn't going lower, taking objective lows. What are these shorts going to do? They're going to cover. What happens when they cover? Buy orders fill, right? And so the 15-minute demand was set. You have the, like I said, 9:15 and 9:30, massive engulfing candle, big rally up on the five, and it's an easy setup to start setting up from stop loss low up into the demand candle on the five. So just kind of give an idea how it looked, okay? So you have the demand candle that we're focused on, which is here, just so we guys see it. This is the candle, right? And then you're using that prior bar, right? That candle's low, and you're counting up into the demand to see, does it make sense? I like 20 point risk setups that go, right? And we were just looking to get those overnight highs, right? For about a 1 to 3, like a 1 to 2, 1 to 3, right? This right here, a 20 point risk for 100, it was about 130 point gain, was about a 1 to 6 or more, right? Just on that setup, just getting above those highs, just taking away the New York shorts, exactly what we wanted from the previous day. Does that make sense? But they at least gave us a little bit more liquidity. So our future position was done that day on Wednesday, and then we just went break even on our CFDs. And as you guys can see, going into, 115, 145, price kind of started to pull back, 245, so power hour, 245 into three, and then three into four, price just exploded, taking out those previous day highs in New York shorts. So this was the meat and potato day of the week, right? Because it was such a clean, easy setup to find, okay? And so now we're going to move on really quickly here to the Thursday. And Thursday was way more choppy, right? It was very similar, right? When it comes to what we're looking for. So we'll move over that same stuff here really quickly. So we'll start here with New York Open. All right, so that's New York Open. Then we need to have the daily open. And this would have been Thursday. Okay. Okay. And so we'll move that Friday for a second. Okay. So we have the daily open, we have the New York open. So it's all about understanding and seeing how the price was. Now, this was super, like I said, manipulative on what they did on Thursday. Okay. Now, what they did was they basically started to show as if they wanted to hold the 23,350s, right? So you see how New York opens. This would have been 8:30 to 8:45. They never go and close a body candle higher, though, if you guys noticed that, like five or anything like that. There was never any body candles closures higher, so I didn't really see price going any higher in that situation anyway. And then they did exactly what we'd like to see, right? If price couldn't go back and get above daily here and above 23,400, we anticipated it to fall back off into the prior bar area, right? And so they did fall back off around 9 to 9:15, and we got the same situation that we were looking for, okay? And so and it was the same time. So this was 9:10 to 9:15. And then right after that, you got what? 9:15 to 9:20. So it looked just like this. All right. So I was watching the price right here. The next candle basically printed just like this inside of a 15-minute dump candle. We had Asian liquidity still available. You had New York shorts at 23,400 still available. So I told myself, okay, count up from your risk into the demand. That's how I like to risk. That's how I like to look at risk, right? And so price came back right here, tapped into the area, and it made sense to come in and buy two here. I don't know why. I meant to do two, guys. Sorry. I had bought two in this situation. And I used this as my risk placement. So this prior bar right here. And then I was looking to TP, just giving back above daily open. Right. And so that was the situation for Thursday. Price played out really nice, right? And delivered. Scared people here, right? And so this is what I want to talk about, right? And so I had two contracts on here. At this point, I had trailed one risk up to here. That had knocked me out of one, so it left me down to one contract at this point. I had the same risk with one contract at this point, okay? If that makes sense. Bam. And then that last contract ended up delivering. So that was the end of the day for Thursday for me. And that was a really pretty good day. That was pretty, clean. We understood that once they came up here three times, right, on that 15, right, they came up one time here, they came up again here, and they came up again here, and they resisted, resisted, resisted. To me, guys, when that happens, all that shows me, because I look at candle closures, is that's a pool of liquidity, right, of stop losses building in that area, right? And unless the price is making objective lows or breaking whole levels or demands, etc., then most likely the price was going to go higher with the Asian liquidity still available. So that was a really good setup, okay? And then we'll move into Friday to finish this off. And Friday was probably the cleanest day of the week that I pretty much could see. And I love how they finished out the week because they gave you multiple opportunities to take these setups. Okay, so you had New York Open. Let's go ahead and move that from yesterday, the day before here to I believe it was where was it at here? Oh, I already have it marked. That's why. Okay, so we already have New York Open marked, and then we're gonna all we needed to do is move the daily at this point here. Where's daily at? Okay, so cool. So that's the daily open, okay? So daily open was really important and London open was really important on Friday because they helped identify the levels that they wanted to take it to. Obviously, before the day starts, always look at who's winning overnight, guys. It was too obvious for me. Like I was like, okay, I wake up, I look at the charts. Sellers are, in a profit massively. They've got two options that are going to happen, right? For if you shorted from up here from overnight, you've got two things that you want to see happen. You want to see this demand fail, right? And you want to see price break lower than 23,300 and give you objective lows to see more sell side, right? And so imagine if you were selling at 2,300 hours or 2,200 hours um, or 22, yeah, 2200, you essentially were selling at 10 p.m. You were holding from 10 p.m. at night all the way into 8 a.m. the next morning, right? And you were tired, right? You're ready to see this thing go lower. It's Friday, you're ready to get out of there. And so what they did, same thing they always do, guys, except the move was way better. I'm gonna break it down here on a one and a five, and then we'll be out of here. Okay. So on the 1 minute, it was really, really pretty, okay, because the way that they did it. So they manipulated people again at that New York, right? So that New York Open was here, 8:30 to 8:35. Then you had 8:35 to 8:40. What'd you get? You got a lower low body close candle, right? This is exactly the type of candles you want to see on a 5 minute is candles closing lower low, showing you true signs of strength and weakness, okay? So to get that, right, before we even got the New York Open, price had already delivered a new low. You guys see that right here? So that was before New York Open. So what they do again, they delivered another new low, right, creating the dump candle, right? And most traders in this situation are going to play, the inversions, and they're looking left to see the move like this, but your eyes need to be focused on the candles and supply demand, right? Because all you essentially are looking for here for me is to be buying below New York Open and to be attacking those London highs and overnight liquidity, also the all-time highs. And so how I framed up this move here was so I'll show you kind of how it looked actually in a replay mode. So Price came down on that 5 minute, created the dump candle, 35 to 40. Boom, sweet. Right? Now, in that next candle you had, this was 39, and then the 40 candle starts right here. You guys see that how it kind of slides over and does that? So you have to kind of know that from looking at a lot of a tape. But I knew that when I got that 1 minute engulfing candle and that 5 minute candle closed like that as a dump candle, now we're on the RSV. I'll explain more about that later on in the future. But as soon as this comes down here, right in the situation, I was looking to buy this area right inside this 5 minute dump candle. Stop loss at that current low, right? TP was set to get out right here, right? Above daily open, above London, 23,400 level, right? So you want to be getting out above daily opens, right? Because think about it like this. If you're getting out of a buy position, somebody's on the other side of this buying above daily, right? They're crazy, right? So you want those novice noob traders to be there so that they can take on the other side of your order, okay? So price obviously started to build up off that area. And now most people, right, ICT traders and inversion players, all that, they're gonna play the play after it's already above the New York Open most of the time. I mean, most of the time they're not gonna take it when it's testing in this area, right? And so, because they're not playing supply demand, they just would have played that demand candle, or like I said, you could have also, to make it even fair, right? You could have framed up, say you were late to that move. I'll show you another way to frame up that same 1 minute setup, okay? So let's say that you didn't take the very next candle entry after the engulfing because that's a little aggressive, right? Well, I definitely would have seen this, right? This is something I was liking. So let's say you got this, the next candle goes. What'd you get? You got a close higher, right? So from right here, you have a new low edge, right? Prior bar edge you can use as a low, right? Price does what? Kind of sinks into the area, testing off of a demand candle. Buy. Bang, right? Stop loss can go right here at this low. TP right above the highs, right? And always be looking left when I'm doing this stuff, guys. TP, because you're seeing where I'm actually targeting the higher time frame liquidity. I hardly ever look at this 1 minute except to trail my risk. All right, so I'm targeting that 5 minute liquidity, getting above daily open, right? Using our concepts. And cool, that's what we like to see. That's also a really good setup right there with, proper risk placement. And so price goes in your favor here. Now, here's something I like to do. When price goes in my favor, a lot of people will tell you to take profit at breaks of structure. You don't have to do that. You can trail risk, right, at breaks of structure, right? So body candle closure higher on the 1 minute. You've got down candles in the uptrending market. Now, if you've got two contract system going, as down candles present themselves in an uptrending market, you guys can write this down. You can trail risk on half the order, right? I personally like to use 5 minute expansions, 5 minute down candles in the uptrending market, another couple of specific things just has to present itself. But at this point right here, when price starts to show you favor, right, and starts to make money available, you need to start having a plan to scale out. Okay. And so that's all it really comes down to, I think, when it comes to getting these orders on the 15.5 1 minute, is understanding that short covering, right? Understanding that New York location, and then understanding how to define edge and know what your probabilities are on the asset that you're trading. Okay. So I know we went over about 40 minutes worth of stuff here. I hope it was helpful when it comes down to the price action and just understanding the overall week. And then what will we finish up on? Main trading objective. Okay, let's see. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much, what I was seeing for the whole week, and like I said, guys, I like to personally stay on 15.5. And then once I see certain things that I'm looking for on that 15.5 in the right locations and draws on liquidity, then I'll look for a signal on a 1 minute that helps me frame up a 15.5. Okay. And so, going into next week, we'll talk more about tomorrow on the call. But I hope this helps out for my NQ traders, right? And then I did say that we would finish up a little bit with ICP. Just want to put that out there again. Good. Okay, so Bitcoin's obviously still here in these 120,000s. We're getting closer to the target on Ethereum of above 4,000, right? And then I would say that, this isn't financial advice or anything like that, but ICP looks like a really good move, guys. Looking at this from this perspective here, this is like potentiality completely, but let's say that if each one of these coins cost about $5.50 right now, you could go in and own 10 coins right now for about 50 bucks, right? On that, let's just say price rallied up to $11 and about 20, it looks like 15 cents, you'd be up about 100%, right? So I don't want to go too much into these. I'm going to make just one call over crypto and over the ones that I really like the most, but definitely keep your eyes out on ICP. So give me 1 second here. Okay, so cool. So I appreciate you guys watching this. Like I said, I've got my stuff filled out, right? It's not a game. And we definitely, I think, dove into a good amount of price and what we could be anticipating going forward, we will talk about on the next call. So leave something in the comments, when it comes to, any questions that you have. Obviously, reach out to me on Instagram if you need to at SirocFX. It's also in the Telegram listed. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys' time and have a good rest of your day. Peace.